Hi, I'm Maleb Klogsh reporting live from Potsdam. The war in Europe has ended, and now the world powers are sitting down at the table to discuss the fate of post-war Europe. Quite frankly, it's not going very well. Even before the end of World War II, the United States and Soviet Union had begun to disagree on the nature of post-war Europe. Both the United States and the Soviet Union have taken steps that were unwise and could have been avoided. The rivalry between these two superpowers stems from their different historical perspectives and their irreconcilable political ambitions. This rivalry has created intense competition for political and military supremacy. Both countries are suspicious and fearful of the other country's motives. Disagreement in Europe over the Allied victory. They were disagreeing over how countries should be divided up between the Allied powers. The United States and Great Britain had championed self-determination and democratic freedom for the liberated nations of Eastern Europe. However, Stalin was fearful that Eastern European nations would return to the traditional anti-Soviet attitudes if they were permitted free elections. So, having liberated Europe from the East, the Soviets installed pro-Soviet governing regimes in Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary. Stalin desired a buffer zone against the West for protection because he was suspicious the West was going to attack Russia. But the West saw this as an attempt at communist expansion, and this led to the first steps of the Cold War. Back to you, Chris.
Hey Chris, might I say you're looking very good today. Anyway, we have a great story on our hands here. It's 1947. A European recovery plan known as the Marshall Plan has been put into effect. Americans feel that communism has been the result of economic turmoil. Thus, $1/3 billion for economic recovery has been put into war-torn Europe. George C. Marshall has recently been quoted on this as saying, "Our policy is not against any country or doctrine, but against hunger, poverty, desperation, and chaos." The results of all this? Europe is now in two competing blocs. Back to you, Big Sexy. Thanks, Caleb. I'm here live in Berlin, reporting on the issue at hand. The winners of World War II have divided Germany and Berlin into 4 zones, but little else has been agreed upon. The Soviets, who were hardest hit by the war, took 380 factories from Western Berlin before giving it to Western powers. The Soviets have re-established the German Communist Party in Eastern Berlin. British, French, and American Western zones have decided to unify. In response, Soviets have formed a blockade around Western Berlin that allows neither trucks nor planes to enter. This resulted in the Berlin Airlift. For almost a year, Western Air Forces worked to supply the people in Western Berlin with supplies they needed to live. 13,000 tons of supplies were dropped daily. The Soviets did not want war, so they did not intervene, and they eventually lifted the blockade. Back to you at the studio.